Hi guys, it's Grace.
Hi, it's Larea.
We are the Indigos. Today's topic is about knowing your self-worth. So, obviously this is extremely important. Ray, you want to interject here?
Oh, oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. Self-worth is so important because, first of all, it affects your dynamics with a lot of people. It also has an effect on people you keep in your life and take out. A lot of times, people could be in relationships where, you know, they they excuse the treatment because of the love that they have for the person. And it's really important to have a certain standard and regard for yourself so that you can sometimes teach people how to treat you, how you want to be loved, how you want to be respected, how you want to be seen. People can't do that without you first setting the tone for it. So we have to hold everyone responsible for making sure that they're aware of the things that they're going through. A lot of people that don't develop self-worth or are even aware of it, that's why there's a lot of patterns in their life within treatment and how people are in different dynamics. You start finding certain patterns where,
Yeah.
maybe, or go ahead, Grace, were you gonna say something?
No. Yeah, you're so right. Setting the precedence, setting what it is that you want to be and how you want to be treated is so vitally important for yourself. I've only learned this like recently properly as to how to do that. But it's so vital that you do this so that you can have the responsibility for yourself to be able to get the best out of life possible from everybody that's in your life by knowing what your worth is.
Oh my God, especially, and I say that especially in romantic relationships because you're dealing with the dynamic of literally two people. You can have multiple friends, family, but that's a very like one-on-one relationship where a lot of people, there's patterns. You can date all these different people from all different walks of life, and yet you still have the same results, the same type of treatment, because maybe subconsciously within yourself, you are presenting something that you have to confront and face so that you can correct it. And that's
Yeah.
why knowing your self-worth is actually an effort towards creating a certain thing for yourself. When it comes to that, where it's like, okay, certain things when it comes to self-worth, example, for me, people use these words that I don't really agree with. Okay, let's talk about like bitch. Let's talk about
Okay.
that. Okay.
Yep.
In society now, it's used as a form of endearment. Personally, within my own scale of self-worth, I don't care how close you are to me, that word,
Yeah.
it could come from my grandmother. I would say, hey, watch it, lady. I personally do not allow that to be a part of my acceptance of treatment.
Yeah.
No one in my life can use that word and call me that as a form of endearment. And it's respect because I think there's like even subconscious, like verbal abuse that happens within people where if you're not
Yeah.
conscious of it, sometimes people will say it and they fall into that, but it's not
Yeah,
really
well,
something
I
that
think
resonates.
I think that way of interacting with everybody has become so casual because we've been so used to that being labeled in a certain way that we think
Oh,
it's just a normal thing.
Grace, you better get it, Grace. That casual, you're so right. Like that's what it is. People are sitting here, I'm like, to the point of casual, they don't even want to say they're dating. They're hanging out. What the hell?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
You're so
know.
right.
Yeah. I had exactly the same conversation with somebody the other day with this women's group on Facebook, right? So
Yeah.
one of my assistants, she sent me this thing about this group on Facebook that's all for empowerment of women, right? And how
Uh-huh.
they greet each other is "What's up, bitches?" And I was like, I like she sent it to me and I was like, I actually do not agree with this at all. I stand for what they're trying to do, but they're actually being so contradictory with the way that they're regarding each other. And she's like, well, it's just casual and everything. And I said, exactly, that's the problem. We accept it as being part of our normal behavior of calling each other that stuff.
That
When
doesn't make it right. That
actually,
doesn't make it right because
exactly. And it was given
society,
that name.
yeah,
It like that term was given to women because of a derogatory sense. It was
yeah,
to like implicate women as being, terrible beings and stuff. And so how are you going to, you know, greet everybody saying this and all stand for empowerment of women?
yeah.
It makes
I
no
mean, it's
sense.
deep. Those things are programmed within you, and that also deals with self-respect. And even with people, like, you know, in society, even when it comes down to curse words and things like that, just because society deems that as a norm, if it doesn't resonate with you to curse, you don't have to, and you don't have to accept it. And that's the whole thing about people setting a tone for themselves, where that's how I am. We're never going to be casual and cool enough for you to call me those names. I don't care who you are in my life. Everyone knows. But you have to set a regard for yourself and how people treat you. Sometimes people will know without you having to, but you also need to have that practice where it never even has to become a conversation, because you're carrying that energy of self-love and self-worth.
Yeah, I was thinking about the whole thing of like, I was thinking about the whole thing of like the subconscious, because it actually is a deep relationship with yourself, of your subconscious. So like for me, for example, you know, knowing my self-worth had to come from realizing a number of things subconsciously, because as you said, in a relationship sense, I've always been repeating the same kind of cycle that I've been used to ever since I was a little girl. So I didn't really know how to connect the dots. In my conscious mind, I always knew what my self-worth was, but in actual practice, in actually what I was calling in, allowing to come into my space, because your subconscious is what you live by. You set the standards with your subconscious mind. So I was like not in the same space, like I wasn't connecting the dots. And I finally worked out, and I finally worked out what it was that was my major blockage for setting the tone for myself, and setting the standard for myself of what I would be accepting of, knowing my self-worth, and actually really knowing it and believing it as well. So, I mean, it takes a long time, right?
You know, knowing, I think it doesn't even take a long time. It's a consistent practice. Just like
it is.
But I think that what makes it crazy is, people know in theory we all should value ourselves, but if your actions don't line up with what you understand because you're not practicing it, it's counterproductive. And one of those things I feel like, what's really important about that is I feel like a very, very general example that I see constantly within people and in relationships, where, you know, a spouse is disrespecting you and, you know, setting certain tones. And of course, people allow love to coat all these things that, to me, I just don't think it's healthy or necessary. But being in a space where, before you even get into relationships, or even if you're in one, sometimes you have to rewrite things, but putting yourself in a space where it's like, I won't deal with this. Oh, if in the beginning you want to play games, or, you know, not give me the value I deserve, then I have to remove myself from it. And I always tell people, sometimes you have to show people by example. Just get them in a space to have an understanding of what's going on. So with that, people have to know, like, sometimes it hurts. Sometimes you have to remove people out of your life to show them, I would love for you to be in my life, and I would love to love you and put you first. But if it's not in return where you're putting me first as well and valuing me, if you have to choose between your self-love and the person, I hope that you have a love within yourself to choose you. If someone else doesn't choose, you're responsible to choose you. And I think
you're responsible to put yourself first every single time, because that is standing
in a selfless situation, because sometimes people can misuse that and you know, sometimes they'll honor selfish behaviors and calling it self-love. But I'm specifically saying, when someone puts you in a situation where you have to either choose your self-love that's being compromised within the dynamic, choose the love, I hope you love yourself enough to choose you. And I think that doesn't happen often enough within people.
No, and that's the self-worth. It's really putting yourself first in order to set the standards.
Like 2 seconds, we're filming. Like, you can hear that. Go ahead.
So Lorena's at her coffee shop, and they might be making coffee. So but like putting yourself first, and like you said, it's not in a selfish way. It's to be able to value yourself in the highest regard, so that you are putting that out there, and that reflection comes back to you with those people that are important to you. And that is the self-worth that we're talking about. It's the value for yourself, it's the love for yourself, the care that you give, because the care that you give yourself is ultimately what the care that you give to others as well, and for others to actually receive that and see that for yourself as well, that you are setting the standards and that they won't treat you in certain ways as well that compromise who you are.
You won't run into as many situations like that once you embody that self-worth and self-love, and that's an air you carry because you won't allow it to be anything else. You don't have those situations. And I can tell you, because just in my own life, once I got to a space where I understood my worth and I practiced it and I lived by it and everything I said I embodied, then I don't deal with those situations. And if they do happen to come, they're so short-lived that there was no time wasted, because I don't allow myself in that space. But then subconsciously,
Well,
people
I mean,
know.
that's interesting, Ray, like that you say this stuff, because like for a lot of people, they're like, but how do you affect how people actually treat you? And it's a matter of like, you know, when you get hurt, right? You get hurt by somebody and they hurt you, and you react to it. And I think that ultimately it's the reaction that you have to these things. Like you get into the reaction because of your ego gets drawn into it. And then you become defiant and defensive and everything. And like, why are you doing this? Why are you speaking to me like this? Blah, 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 blah. And you get drawn into the drama of it all. Set the standard. Say, no, I don't want that to happen in my life. I don't think that what you're doing is right by me. I don't think you're treating me right. Set it straight away as soon as they do it, and then pull yourself away from the situation. Don't even get into the drama. It's the drama that causes the cycle, and the cycle to repeat over and over and over again.
Where it's not even the actual initial issue, because then those very things become the main focus, because a lot of people aren't dealing with things that are ingrained from the deepest places. They're dealing with the surface. So the surface is the current argument opposed to the real situation. I tell people all the time, do you think the wife divorced her husband because the toilet seat was up? That was you understand? And that's like an example that happens all the time, where people will say those things like, I can't stand that this person does this. No, it's been like these repeated cycles, and that's the thing that's in the forefront that you're focused on, but that's not really the issue. The issue is issue is setting a tone. And really, because people will say that, people will pretend to be those things, and I'm not talking about games and where people will play hard to get and pretend to be this person. No, I'm saying having a value for yourself, and everyone has a different level of how they value themselves, how they see themselves, but put yourself in a space where, again, someone loving you how you feel you deserve to be loved, and vice versa, being that same reflection of what you want, being the love you seek.
And I think also, like, how do people know how do they know what and how they want to be loved? See, like sometimes, you do want to be loved, but you just don't know how. So it's like, just listen to yourself, whatever makes you feel good, whatever makes you feel really wholesomely good, not about like surface stuff, but actually how do you feel with it? And that is setting the standards for yourself. Like as you're going, it's like, you're like, in this relationship, you're in this kind of whirlwind, and then it's like certain triggers start to happen, and you just kind of have to shut it down.
Yeah, but it's interesting too. I feel like with people, I've learned this. Well, two things. People could read. There's this really cool book called The 5 Languages of Love, and it kind of teaches you about they have broken down 5 different ways that people like to be loved, where it's like words of affirmation, gifts, time well spent, where they break down specifically. So that's one way that you could learn a tangible source. But there's also one way that I've been able to apply, which of course I've read that book and it was fantastic. But another thing that I applied to my life is dealing with people. I noticed how they loved me. And I say that because we naturally love how we want to be loved. So that's why sometimes there's a disconnect. Some people are about gifting because they want gifts. So what do? They bring gifts. Some people
Hang on, say that again, Ray. Say that again. So Ray just said something that was really important just then, which was people naturally love the way that they want to be loved.
Yeah, people love. And for me, that's how I've always figured out kind of my dynamic and tone with people, by watching how they love me first. Because I know how I love, because I'm a space, but when I was in a space where I didn't really understand it, I started to collect data, which is through experiences, right? We all collect data and experience. And my data and experience was, okay, seeing how people love me, because I noticed everyone loves differently. And I definitely learned to love differently as well. But I noticed that the people that how they wanted to be loved, because there might be a disconnect. Sometimes people are all about material gifts, right? Where I words of affirmation, where I'm the type of person that like I will tell you how I feel. I will present it in a certain way. Where some people will deem like gifts being material. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's for that's someone's example of showing you I thought about you.
Yeah,
With me, I
expressions
never have
of love.
my time. There's love there. You know, so everyone's different. So I feel like if you kind of look at people in your life and how they're loving you and how they're not loving you and how they're broken, take a step back, because when you get to see your situation, your dynamic, it helps you also look at yourself. Does that resonate with you? The same, or do you love in a different way? And having those open conversations with the people that you love the most, so that you guys can have this connection. Sometimes it's instant and it's virtual because you establish that in another life, so you're not on that page anymore. And sometimes maybe this life, that's what you're dealing with. So verbalizing those things, and being the love.
Actually making them a physical verbalization of everything that you want to.
Yeah. So check out the 5 languages of love. And if you guys want to talk about it, we could do, a series on that too. Because I think it's really cool as well.
All right, cool. All right, well, know your self-worth and really like set the standards for yourself, set the tone for yourself, listen to whatever you feel is right for yourself as well. And that's the way to kind of go into it all. We'd love to hear your experiences of like knowing your self-worth or finding your path to your self-worth and understanding what it is. But yeah, so next time, I don't know what we'll talk about, but we'll talk about something good.
Yeah. We'll come to us and we go for it.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys. Take care.